Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm the CEO of Reactive Network. My company's name is actually PARSIQ. We are one of the sponsors. You see the company there. What's Reactive Network is actually the interoperable execution layer of blockchain. It's quite a mouthful. I always struggle with that word. I think let's go down to actually the problem statement. Basically, we actually went to the root of building in this space. Some of you who are developers, this might be very, very familiar to you. What happened is that Web2 developers can build modular code via inversion of control. Web3 developers cannot. What does that mean? Because if you're building on-chain, smart contracts are not reactive to events. They are reactive to the state of your wallets. So if essentially what happens is that a Web2 experience is that it deploys the code, it reacts to changes on the tech component states directly. The code will perform the function, and then the application just happens. But on Web3, because you cannot do that, and everyone still needs to build a business. So essentially what happens is that the code that's deployed on-chain, because it cannot respond to on-chain events, cannot take the data, cannot respond across blockchains. The blockchain data has to be taken off-chain and then standardized. The standardized data have to feed to a Web2-based code, some other built under some other code languages, and then that will respond to the data. And the Web2-based code will then perform the functions by reconnecting back to Web3 nodes and so on. This is a huge interactivity gap that we see. What we realized that if everyone builds this way and everyone takes it for granted, Web3 will never achieve this mass adoption that we want the industry to go. So essentially what happened is that Reactive will fill this interactivity gap. We want to make the event logs actionable and programmable fully on-chain. What does this actually mean? If you look at the path and the before on the left, if you put the data off-chain, it goes through an off-chain indexer, there's external code, there's data storage, there's transaction signing, there's data synchronization, blah, blah, blah. What we are talking about is basically the extra 5 to 6 different tech architecture you need to go through. But what if you can put all of this reactable architecture fully on-chain? That means your tech development cycle is measured in weeks, not in months. Each time in the old way of doing things on the left, you are updating your on-chain part, but you also need to change your off-chain tech architecture. But if at least the reactivity part of the technology is on-chain, what we are talking about is that you just need to do changes to the reactive smart contracts. And from there, you're constantly upgrading the functionalities, you're upgrading your businesses, you're upgrading different things in a matter of weeks. That is way closer to the kind of experience you're getting, for example, on your computer, on your handphone. Your handphone apps constantly updates. Your Google Store or the Apple Store constantly asks you to just update it. And that's what we want on Web3 today. What's the value in Web3? Basically, what we want to do is this. With reactive smart contracts to underpin complex reactive functions on-chain, it can enable a more complex smart contract. It's conditional, it's reactive. From this more complex smart contracts, actually, we can close this interoperability gap for applications. It will streamline user experience. It will power intent-centric applications, etc. Earlier, Vitalik actually mentioned about UX, and that was a very, very big and key thing that what we want to do as well in this space. And I'll explain more about how we will be at the center of it later. Essentially, this is how it works. We pull the data that's on the blockchains, any blockchain. What you see on the screen right now is like blockchain A, blockchain B, but effectively what we're talking about is it can be blockchain A to blockchain A. It can be many blockchains to many blockchains. What we want to do is we take those data, we pump it to our network. Our network will observe any live events, retrieve the histories. You deploy any smart contract on us, it becomes a reactive smart contract. That reactive smart contract can see the events. And if you can see the events, it can react to it. It finally has eyes and ears. One way to visualize this is basically this. If blockchains are islands, they don't talk to each other because they are not built to talk to each other. There are different projects that build bridges across. I'm not talking about like bridge in the sense of Web3 bridge. I'm talking about data bridges. And data bridges, what we call in this industry is GMPs, general message parsings. I'm talking about XLRs, Layer 0, Wormhole, etc. What they do is basically building that metaphorical bridges connecting the islands together. Think of us as reactive smart contracts, as the autonomous Tesla cars. We are traveling on those bridges, bringing the data, we digest the data, and the car will actually act according to its own coding to say that I need to go to this destination, I need to go somewhere else, I need to act according to what they are coded to do. And those computations execute the contract logic will then publish the results back onto the layer 1 and layer 2s. So what we want to do is a data execution layer for developers to build modular, autonomous, self-sufficient cross-chain applications. What it essentially means is that for a lot of projects, they look at us, they don't need to think about us as, oh, are you just another layer 1 or layer 2? We are not. We are facilitating whatever you have been building on the layer 1, layer 2. Those layer 1 and layer 2s, smart contracts, they are not responsive to events. I can't change the layer 1 and layer 2s. But what I can enable for you is to have this data execution layer completely on-chain, coded again by Solidity. You don't need to learn anything new. You deploy a smart contract, but this time it is reactive. And if it is reactive, it can act what you need in terms of the business cases behind the scenes, and it will enable what you need to actually bring up for your business case. And if that's the case, the reactive part of your business now rests solely on-chain. And that also means that each time you want to adjust certain functions, address some bugs, add new functions, maybe take away some stuff that's obsolete, you don't need to change both the on-chain and the off-chain part of things. That process, because you're going through 6, 7 different tech architectures, is usually calculated in months in this industry. But what we want to do is, can you shorten it to weeks? And if you're shortening it to weeks, this is very, very important. It's tons of different use cases. We didn't dream up of all these use cases ourselves. We actually spoke to different projects, and different projects told us that, hey, we can do this with you. Can we try this out? And a lot of them are already bringing us right now. We're talking about DEXs. They're thinking about hook-like functionalities. Uniswap version 4, very popular out there. And they are like, can you actually be sort of like the upgrade for our version 2, version 3 based exchanges to become almost like a light version of version 4? This can be done, actually, and that's actually extremely powerful. What they want to do in terms of DEXs, they want to find a way to basically leapfrog a lot of these developmental problems that they face in this space. They know they're competing with Uniswap. They're competing with each other. And Uniswap, of course, they have a lot of resources, they have a lot of TVLs. They tend to go faster because of their development cycle. But if your development cycle is way faster than Uniswap, maybe Uniswap, by the time they're at version 5, you're at version 20. And that's the kind of age that they want to look at, explore with us. We're talking to lending platforms, liquidation protections, maybe auto-adding collaterals. The whole point is to make sure that you don't fall below the certain threshold and you do not get liquidated. They want to automate a lot of this behind the scenes. And the whole point is to make sure that it is easier for users to interact with us. It's easier for different institutions even to use the lending protocols, dApps and launchpads as well. Automated implementation of proposals once on-chain voting is completed, etc. SocialFi, GameFi, one of the very interesting GameFi examples that we have is basically, I'm not going to quote who they are, but they're trying to look at a situation where they have maybe 5 level 1 NFTs, gaming NFTs, assets, items. And maybe their users want to burn those 5 NFTs to create a level 2 NFTs, a level 2 sword, level 2 shield, whatever game item it is. And maybe they are on multiple blockchains. And they have one problem. What if the assets are on multiple different blockchains and the newly created level 2 NFTs is on maybe an alternative blockchain again? Maybe they are on 5, and they want to burn from 5 different assets from 5 different blockchains, and they're just going to mint the new one on one of those 5. In a typical scenario, everything has to taken off-chain because it's across multiple different blockchains. And from the user perspective, it is very confusing. In the current technology, you need an off-chain kind of solution to actually show sort of front end where all my assets are across which blockchain and where. But they can organically do this, and the system can even calculate which path is actually the cheapest guess, which path is better, and where the assets are, and why is it there. And for a lot of times, especially if you ask gamers, they don't even bother, they don't even care which blockchains they are going to be on. All they want is like the game experience is seamless. This whole thing, in terms of whether it's minting, burning, selling, reselling, trading of assets, is seamless. They do not actually care too much about which chain it is on. All they care about is their gaming experience. All of it actually leads to the sixth point, US enhancements. A lot of projects, they are looking at us for one-step swap. Basically, just click once rather than click 3 times. NFT, ticket, automated issuance, automated portfolio balancings, etc. A lot of things that Vitalik actually just mentioned earlier about UX. And that's something that we found ourselves in it. We created something. Obviously, the use cases need to come to us. And very, very rapidly, as we're talking more and more projects, this thing really popped up. A lot of them are looking at UX. When we were at ETH in Brussels earlier this year, one of the main themes that really came out was on really welcoming the next billion users, etc. And very rapidly, a lot of people just say that it must be seamless enough, the UX must be really good, such that maybe our grandmothers can use us, can use Web3 applications without actually knowing that much that they are on Web3. And that's something that we want to underpin. If you are building on-chain right now, this is the reality. Anything that you build on-chain, those parts that are actually on-chain, maybe it's just a small percentage of your overall tech architecture. Almost everything else is technically off-chain. And if you ask any developers, they'll just say that, oh, I don't need to put everything on Web3. If you ever think about why, and you ask them why is it that you as an industry feels that you do not need to put everything on Web3, and you ask enough whys, the end result is always because the tech architecture cannot support my business use case. And because of that, we put, well, business have to be businesses. We put things off-chain. And what we are trying to come forward to tell developers is that let's have a fundamental paradigm shift. Let's think differently. What if I enable you, at least for the reactive parts of your business case, to be on-chain? If that is on-chain, there's a lot of things that you can do. So there's a lot of tractions that we have right now. Right now, we are on testnet. We will be launching the mainnet probably at the end of the year or January, around that kind of time frame. We are partnered with Exceler to form an interoperability full suite solution. They are first of many. The whole point about us is to be decentralized, and it also doesn't make sense for us to just rely on one single partner. The reason why we're building with them is actually multifold. If I manually connect to each blockchains out there, I can, but that will require tons of resources. But if I connect to GMPs, they are already building bridges. I need to think of myself, I'm the Tesla. I'm the car company. I'm not the bridge building company. So if that's the case, let my cars just drive on those bridges. And the more bridges I'm on, the better it is. We have top layer 1s and layer 2 supports and ecosystems. I'm here today because I support Ethereum. We built fully on EVM. And that's really the first part, like the first step. Eventually, we will go for non-EVM supports because we're agnostic. But the whole point is this is our starting point because we truly believe in EVMs and these ethos as well. There's DeFi adoptions, QuickSwap, Pangolin, etc. They're already building on us. We've estimated about 100 reactive smart contracts already deployed on us. Currently, we are also running a hackathon. Just started last week. It's a virtual hackathon, some Dora hacks. You can take a look. And we are actually working with ETH Singapore as well. We do want to hold a local kind of hackathon. When it comes out, we will work with you guys, and it will come out regionally. The whole point is to get the user adoption, the use cases. And to us, the user adoption is not consumer-based. It's actually the developers. And we want developers to come and try us out. This is a full paradigm shift, and that's why we need different kinds of use cases to come in. And we have a lot of good feedback from the various different projects. I'm not going to talk about them directly. You guys can take a look. I think a lot of times people confuse us about what this is because this is so new. When we talk about this, a lot of people will be like, are you bridges? Are you GMPs? Are you an automation project? And that's also why I just want to paint the key difference. The key difference is this: our computation is on-chain, we are event-based, we are smart contract native. We're fully on-chain. And whatever we address at a smart contract level. Most of these solutions, they sort of address a bit of the interoperability space, kind of problems within it, but from different aspects. Like bridges, they look at it from the asset aspect. They want to allow assets to flow across. GMPs, they want data to flow across. Of course, assets are just type of data. Automation projects, they are usually off-chain. And they provide their service using SDK. We are the only ones that come forward and say that, look, you're compounding the problem, you're not actually solving the problem yet. Fundamentally, we want to bring Web3 from a space where it's just reactive to states to somewhere where it's reactive to events. And that's basically where Reactive Network comes about. A little bit of something for projects, developers. Some of the sort of pros and cons. Without Reactive Network, this is a reality. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of development costs, salaries, in terms of both developers, front end, back end, full stack, DevOps, etc. All of this in terms of building on-chain, basically the whole development lifecycle. What you see on screen is really just the money. I haven't even talked about the time yet. Typically, it takes about 6-7 months or so for a kind of changes that we put on-chain to actually take place. Because each time you do some changes on-chain, and on-chain is immutable, a lot of problems in terms of building that. You have to change a lot of things that's off-chain, and that's that 5 or 6 tech architecture that I was talking about earlier. But if you're using reactive smart contracts on us, because we are fully on-chain, we are sort of a layer 0.5. That's probably the best that I can describe ourselves. That's the only one single thing that you need to change. In fact, most of the time, you do not need to change your layer 1 or layer 2 smart contracts. Leave those alone, because those are still only responsive to states, not events. Let the events and all the reactive, if this then that happened on our layer, and you can just change that constantly. You shorten the development lifecycle into weeks. You are saving a lot of money, both upfront development and also on salaries. With your guys that you're already employing, you can really deploy them to really think about the next business, the next product, the next use case, the next functionalities you want to add to your whatever that you're building. So just a little bit of background about us. Right now we are already on incentivized testnet. We are already integrating with GMPs. I think earlier I was mentioning that I'm already integrating with XLR. Mainnet launch should be this quarter, if not latest next Q1 2025. We will expand into more EVM networks. A lot of it depends. Actually, in my case, my expansion into different networks boils down to different GMPs that I'm integrating. To me, that's a shortcut. But to me, that's also a way of decentralizing it. At the end of the day, GMPs are not fully decentralized. Not all of them are. We are choosing, and we are very picky about which ones we partner. We will only really partner those that we feel are decentralized and really useful in terms of what we're doing. Because in my case, I cannot have them going down on us, and my network therefore fails to connect to different networks. It has to succeed. Beyond that, we will expand beyond EVM networks probably in the later half of next year. What we are thinking about, basically, when you talk about non-EVM networks, is really the translational layer. When people deploy reactive smart contracts on us, it will be basically underpinned by Solidity. And if it's underpinned by Solidity, those who are non-EVMs needs to be able to understand whatever output is going from it. So to us, it's really building that translational layer. Translational layers takes time because we have to target each non-EVM separately. So in terms of what we're doing, that's it. What you see on screen on the left is really our website. On the right is my LinkedIn. Feel free to add me. Feel free to ask me any questions. And in fact, I have 10 minutes left. I think this is also where I want to open up if anyone has any questions about what we're doing. It's completely new, but you might have some questions. Yes.
Hello? Yeah, so with regards to network states and responsive smart contracts, I would like to ask a question. How do you see like a future where the smart contract would integrate into real life, for example, real life transaction with government intermediary involved? Because that's the thing is like blockchain removes the government agents, but how would you think like with regards to smart contracts evolution, integration? How do you see the automation will happen with the transaction case?
Are you asking when, like, if there's a government intermediary still, like, how will Reactive Smart Contract come in?
Yeah, because in network state, people talk about the ideas of evolving a system in a certain way where governments can be automated, smart contract, and truth could be provided. But in case of your case, is it like, do you see that there's a full-on throttle that you can basically remove the government in this whole game, or you have some, for example, an overseer that will just make sure it will self-correct the system, or correct the system on the way?
I think I get your question now. So the way I see it is basically this. When people develop applications, there usually there's a business case. It needs to do certain things, bring value to the users, and therefore, of course, in between, maybe there's some form of transactions, money to be made, etc. But at the end of the day, it's about bringing values to the end users. So in our case, the automation part of things brings value to, of course, developers. But at the end of the day, it brings values, most importantly, to the business use cases, the fundamentals behind it. So the way I see it, one of the biggest value to this, if you think of it from the institutional, like let's not talk about government for now. Government is like a kind of institutions too. But if you look at it from the institutional standpoint, an institution, when they're looking at it, example, if I'm one of the major banks in Singapore or Malaysia or Japan, they will not want to really step into this Web3 space right now. Why? Because there's a lot of things that you deploy some things on-chain, but there's like 5 or 6 different things that's off-chain, and who controls that? Off-chain services are provided by other companies, and they do not trust those other Web3 off-chain company services. But if they can deploy everything on-chain, and on-chain is fully transparent, they might give it a shot. And there's a second part to it, because if you're an institution, you also do not want it to be fully transparent. They'll be like, oh, I have all these transactions. I'm going to move billions of dollars from this country to that country. I'm going to change this currency to that currency. I actually don't really want everyone to see it. And that's fine. And that's where integrations with privacy partners comes in. Certain transactions need not be open, and that's already doable on-chain. And this is probably where the greatest value is. We want to come in and improve Web3 tech architecture. If you can improve it, actually institutions will come in and take a note, because they will take what is relevant to them. And it's the same case for businesses as well.
Answer.
And yes, are there any other questions? You have another? Yes.
I can ask more. I can just continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would be the case? Well, you talk about Web3 architecture and integrating like user experience. Many people talk about that user experience and functionality need to be improved in crypto space. And I agree with Vitalik, that's basically a fundamental issue, that there's this bottleneck where the adaptability is not going there because it's not as easy. But the thing is, like, if we talk about legalities, if we talk about formation of a smart contract, that would be essentially a representation of a real contract. And the usability, which I've been playing around my head right now for a while now, actually, the fundamental approach where you have a smart contract built as a regular contract and executed from the user experience side and actually in the real world side. When build, for example, on Web3 architecture. How do you see that would happen? What would be the building step, like stepping stone to get that? Because that I've been thinking with that idea. I'll show you the designs actually from 2014. But
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it comes down a lot to languages. If you're thinking about actually feeling like a typical contract that humans understand, it's down to language. And I think that's also where a lot of excitement about what we're doing comes from our AI partners.
Yeah.
When we first built this, and we are trying to do this, AI hasn't really taken off yet. It took us a while to build this. And then when AI really came out and we really came out, when AI is trying to build on Web3, they face the same bottleneck that everyone is facing. Web3 technology, Web3 tech architecture, responsive to states, not events. And they're like, hey, I've been taking this for granted for so many years because they're building on the internet, on Web 2, on Web 1, whatsoever. And how it underpins their AI agents and whatever their business case needs is basically being reactive to things that's happening. Their AI agents need to see what's going on before it can react. And if they realize they can't put it on Web3, so how do they do Web3 AI then? Web3 AI is done by, again, putting the AI agents off-chain.
Yeah.
And they're only taking Web3 data and they put it off-chain and then you digest it. And when they spoke to us, there's quite a few projects, and when they spoke to us about reactive smart contracts, they got quite excited about it. Why? Because they found that there's quite a few use cases. I can explain one of it to you, which actually explains, sort of address what you're saying. They're saying, can it be a situation where a typical guy on the street do not know how to code? And, well, vast majority of people do not know how to code. But it comes to the AI agent and say that, hey, can I do this thing? Maybe simple use case, for example, transferring of funds or maybe copy trading. Can I copy this whale, whoever it is, Justin Sun, whoever, and me as a typical guy on the street, I wouldn't know which wallets belong to this whale either. Yeah. But I want to follow this guy. Can you, as an AI, come out with a contract that basically allows me to follow this guy's trades? And if this happens, I give the permission. So in some sense, it is like a human contract that the human can understand. The interface between the AI and us is the AI can write a reactive smart contract that makes it happen. If they write a typical smart contract, you still need that off-chain parts that automate this thing. Yeah. And to the AI agent, they don't want to constantly build new things off-chain. That whole development cycle takes months. But it is as simple as I just deploy a smart contract and that's it. It's done in maybe minutes. And then you just need to put in a bit more effort to verify that the smart contract is written correctly, and whatever that this smart contract, reactive smart contract, that's executed by the AI is done properly, then that is a valid use case. And that's something that's the possibilities is boundless, is limitless. And that's something that can likely come forward.
Yeah, I will. After you finish, I'll show you a few ideas. One thing I was thinking as well on how the execution will be monitored of the smart contract between, for example, two individuals who've established that contract. For example, inside the company or the task allocation within the company, to make sure the thing will be automated, like a company that's fully regulated and fully automated by AI. And you know, those things is the technologies are getting there. Yep. We are essentially in that points where I think half a year we will be able to show a fully automated company with all task allocation, with all the execution agents and everything within half a year. And blockchain and smart contracts will make sure that everything's done properly, timestamping and stuff like that. Definitely.
So if anyone that's really trying to build this on blockchain, you will realize that blockchain is the bottleneck. Yeah. And there is the bottleneck because of tech architecture. It's no one's fault. If you talk to any of the layer 1 and layer 2s, they will just say it is what it is. And what we are coming forward is say that, no, we shouldn't accept it is as what it is. Yeah. We should come in and break this bottleneck. And I've been talking to some people as well. We will not be the last solution out there to make this happen. I think the holy grail is basically like a layer 1 or layer 2 that's connected to everybody who can enable reactive smart contracts, blah, blah, blah. We didn't build that. Maybe we can, but I know that development time frame of that will take forever. But we built this because this is a gap that is in this space right now. Yeah. And everyone needs it right now. Yeah. And this is something that's why I feel that reactive smart contracts, and we all feel very strongly in our organization. We want to make this happen, and we want to work together with the layer 1 and layer 2s to make it happen.
Yes, respect.
Thank you so much. I guess I only have a minute left. Not sure if, oh, yeah, please.
Hi, thanks for sharing. So I was just wondering, because this, I mean, traditionally we do, I guess we have like I guess we have like Web 2 event orchestration layers that we built in different companies. I guess how different is it from Reactive? Because are you guys like, you're saying you're on chain, so I guess you're running a blockchain network. So you gotta have to follow like Exodus, like validator structure and whatnot. And I guess how is that different from a Web 2 like event orchestration layer?
Yeah. So essentially, because we obviously is still built using a blockchain architecture. We have our own validators, we have our own chains, etc., decentralized, and all that. I think one of the key difference between us and maybe even actually say like layer 1 and layer 2 is this. We are just a data execution layer. We take the data from the different chains. On our layer, any smart contract is built on it is reactive to the events, and therefore it will act out. If this, then that, and so on. There's an automation. And if that's the case, I don't need developers to think about, oh, I need to build my applications on you. They only need to build that reactive parts on me. Their layer 1 and layer 2 products still remain on layer 1 and layer 2 products. We are not talking about TVLs on us. Technically, no one needs to put TVLs on us. Don't need to store, don't need to bridge your tokens, etc. to us. We are a data layer. And from that, if you look at it from the Web 2 perspective, we basically eliminate all of that Web 2 architecture as well, at least for the reactive functions of the Web 3 products that you have. I guess my time is up. Thank you all so much. Thank you for my time.